What if history took a sharp turn on July 20th, 1944? On that day, a group of high-ranking German officers attempted to assassinate Adolf Hitler. In our timeline, the plot failed, and the consequences were brutal. But what if the bomb had done its job? What if Hitler was gone? Let's explore that alternate history. Imagine the scene: Wolf's Lair, East Prussia. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg places the briefcase bomb. This time it's positioned perfectly. The blast is devastating, and Hitler is killed instantly. The news spreads like wildfire through the secret channels of the conspiracy. In Berlin, Operation Valkyrie, the plan to take control of the state, is launched with renewed vigor. General Friedrich Olbricht and his co-conspirators immediately begin rounding up loyal SS and Gestapo officials. Unlike the hesitant, confused response in our history, this time with confirmation of Hitler's death, the army's reserve units stationed in and around Berlin move decisively. Key ministries, radio stations, and communication hubs are seized. But it wouldn't be a clean takeover, not by a long shot. Figures like Himmler and Göring would never just surrender. They would immediately brand the conspirators as traitors and rally loyal SS divisions and Wehrmacht units to their side. Germany would plunge into a brutal, chaotic civil war. The front lines in both the east and west would begin to crumble as units were pulled back to fight for control of the homeland. On the Eastern Front, the Red Army would see this as a golden opportunity. Stalin would push his forces forward relentlessly, aiming to seize as much territory as possible while the Germans fought amongst themselves. The Soviet advance, already powerful, would become an unstoppable tidal wave, likely reaching Berlin weeks or even months earlier than in our timeline. Meanwhile, the new government in Berlin, led by figures like Ludwig Beck and Karl Goerdeler, would desperately try to negotiate with the Western Allies, their primary goal, a separate peace. They would offer to surrender unconditionally to the Americans and British, but with one major condition: that the Allies help them stop the Soviet advance. This would present an unimaginable dilemma for Roosevelt and Churchill. The unconditional surrender policy had been the cornerstone of their alliance with Stalin. Accepting a deal with the German plotters would mean betraying their Soviet ally and effectively starting the Cold War right then and there, in the summer of 1944. Accepting a deal with the German plotters would mean betraying their Soviet ally and effectively starting the Cold War right then and there, in the summer of 1944. It's a tough call. Public opinion in the West was staunchly anti-German, and a deal might be seen as letting the enemy off the hook. However, the prospect of the entire European continent falling under Soviet influence was a terrifying one. It's plausible that a secret agreement could have been reached. American and British forces might have been allowed to advance rapidly through a surrendering Western Front, racing the Soviets to key strategic points in Central Europe. This scenario could lead to a very different map of post-war Europe. Germany might not be divided, or at least not in the same way. The Iron Curtain could fall along the borders of Poland, or even further east. The war in Europe would end sooner, possibly by the end of 1944, saving millions of lives, both civilian and military. The horrors of the final months of the war, including the Battle of the Bulge and the firebombing of Dresden, would never happen. However, the world would be immediately plunged into a tense standoff between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union. The Cold War wouldn't be a creeping, gradual development. It would be the immediate, explosive reality of 1945. The nuclear age would still dawn. The Cold War wouldn't be a creeping, gradual development. It would be the immediate, explosive reality of 1945. The nuclear age would still dawn. Germany would still have to face the legacy of its horrific crimes, and the new government would have a monumental task of denazification and rebuilding. But it would have steered history down a dramatically different path. An earlier end to the war in Europe, a different configuration of the Cold War, and a world where the final, desperate year of fighting was avoided. It's a powerful reminder of how a single event, a single briefcase, could have changed everything. What do you think would have happened? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into alternate history, be sure to like and subscribe for more.